Hello, I'm Mrs. J, and today we're going to solve quadratic inequalities. And they want us to solve the inequality on the number line. Well, the first thing you need to do is solve it, even if you want to think of it as when the equal sign is here. We need to get it set equal to 0, and then use the quadratic formula or factor it. So if we get it set equal to 0, we have negative x squared plus 4x, bringing the 5 over, plus 5 greater than 0. I'm going to multiply through by a negative because I don't like to factor when my front term is negative. So I'm going to divide everything by -1. Now when you divide or multiply everything by a -1, it flips your inequality. So I have x squared minus 4x minus 5 is less than 0. I'm factoring x minus 5 and x plus 1, and then setting each of them equal to 0. I get 5 and -1. So we want our number line -1 and 5. And we want to test points to make sure they are less than 0. So we have our x minus 5 and our x plus 1. You want to pick, I'm going to put an open circle here. The reason I'm keeping it open is because the inequality does not have an equal to. So we need to test values to the left, in between the two, and then to the right. So I could test -2. You're only worried about the sign. You don't have to calculate the value. If I plug a -2 in here, I have a negative value. -2 and 1 is negative. Multiplying them, a negative times a negative is a positive. So all of this is going to be positive. Now look in between. I could do 0. 0 minus 5 is a negative. 0 plus 1 is positive. A negative and a positive is a negative. Then I look out here. 6, 10, anything greater than 5. I'm going to use 6. 6 minus 5 is positive. 6 plus 1 is positive. A positive times a positive is a positive. So these two sections are greater than 0. This one is less than 0. We want less than 0. So here. And that graph would be your answer. If you need an interval notation, -1 to 5, and they'd both be parentheses because we're not including the endpoints. I think that's it. Let's try another one. X squared less than a -4x. Again, first thing we need to do is get it set equal to 0. So we're going to bring the -4 over. Remember, when you bring things over, it changes their sign. So you have x squared plus 4x is less than 0. Notice I don't have 3 terms, but I can factor an x out. And then I have x times x plus 4. I can set those equal to 0. So I have 0 and -4. My factors were x and x plus 4. You want these to be in numerical order. This is a number line. So if we pick a number to the left of -4, say -5, this will be negative and this will be negative. Because -5 plus 1 is a negative. Negative times negative is a positive. And we're not including the endpoints, so we won't color them in because there's no equal to. Going in between here, we can do -1. -1 would be negative. -1 plus 4 would be positive. These are 90% of the time they are changing. The only time they don't is when you have an even multiplicity. Negative times positive is a negative. And the last group over here, something greater than 0, 1. This would be positive, and 1 plus 4 is positive. Positive times positive is a positive. So these two would be greater, this one's less than. And our problem was less than, so it is in between. They asked for the graph on this one. If they want interval, it would be -4 to 0. One more. Same one. Oh, I flipped the sign. Okay, so this one is the exact same thing, except they want greater than. Since they want greater than, from above, because the problem set up the same, except the only thing changed is greater than, which means we want this one and this one. -infinity to -4 and 0 to infinity. Now for this section you just use the graph, but in other sections you need to be able to write the interval. There's another set of these. Let's try those. I think they're rational functions. Yeah. Okay. So we have 10 over x minus 4 is less than or equal to 5. So on this one, again, we still need to get it set equal to 0. Well, we could cross multiply. You should get it set equal to 0. The problem with the cross multiplying is if x ends up being negative, inequalities switch. So I would get it set equal to 0 and get a common denominator, which would be x minus 4 over x minus 4. So we have 10, distributing the 5, minus 5x plus 20 all over x minus 4. Negative. Now we want to find when it's equal to 0. When you have a fraction, you need to set your top and bottom equal to 0. Now we know that the bottom cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal 4. This one, subtracting the 30 and then dividing by -5 gives us 6. So when we have our number line, we have 4 and 6. This 6 can be equal to because of this line. The 4 cannot be equal to because that gives us 0 in the denominator. So even though this is here, we still can't equal 0 because it's in the denominator. So this one's an open circle. Now we still need to test our points using the numerator and the denominator. So we have negative 5x plus 30 and x minus 4. Plugging in something to the left, I'd plug in 0. 0 gives me a plus. 0 here gives me a negative. A positive and a negative is a negative. Going in between, I can use 5. 5 would be a negative 25, which would still be a positive value. 5 minus 4 is positive. So a positive and a positive is a positive. And then something out here, 10. Negative 5 times 10 is negative 50, which is going to give me a negative value. Negative 5, oops, 10. 10 minus 4 is positive. So when I plug in 10 here, I get a negative. On the bottom, I get a positive. And a negative and a positive is a negative. And we wanted less than or equal to, so we want the negatives. This one and this one. In this case, they don't want the graph, they want interval notation. But I always graph this first because you need to show the sign analysis. Negative infinity to 4, union with 6 to infinity. 4 gets a parenthesis because it's not equal to, but 6 needs a square bracket because it is including it. Try another one. It's almost the same. Another one. They don't have too many options, do they? 6 over x plus 4 less than 2. So we need to bring the 2 over. And then we need to combine it, so we want to multiply by a common denominator. So I have 6 minus, distributing the 2, 2x minus 8 all over x plus 4. And then we set negative 2x, hold on one second. So we're combining on the top, we have a negative 2x minus 2 over x plus 4. Just less than equal. Now to find the values for our axis, we set the top and the bottom equal to 0. Negative 2x equals 2, x equals negative 1, and x equals negative 4. So negative 4, negative 1. Negative 4 came from the denominator, so that definitely cannot equal 0. But the top one will not equal 0 either because the equal to is not there, it's only less than. So they're both open circles. And we need to test. Make that a little bigger. Negative 2x minus 2 is the top, and the bottom is x plus 4. So if we pick a number to the left, negative 5, negative 5 times 2 is a positive 10 minus 2, so that's a positive number. Negative 5 minus 4 is negative, a positive, and a negative is a negative. Here we can plug in negative 2 which gives us a positive 4. So this will be positive. Negative 2 plus 4, this is also positive. A positive and a positive is a positive. And the last one, 0. 0 minus 2 is negative. 0 plus 4 is positive. A negative and a positive is a negative. We wanted less than 0, so we'd want this one and this one. And they want interval notation, so negative infinity to negative 4 and negative 1 to infinity. Let's try one more. We have x minus 6 greater than or equal to 0 over x minus 2. And it's a negative x minus 2. So the first thing we do, it's already set equal to 0. So we have x minus 6 equals 0, setting the top and the bottom equal to 0. X equals 6, and negative 2 equals x. So we're checking negative 2 and 6. It has the equal to, so the one from the top we include, but this negative 2 came from the denominator, and that should be it. Oh, okay. So we will not equal it. So it should be an open circle. Testing points, if we write our quantities first, x minus 6 and negative x minus 2. Okay, so we pick a point to the left, negative 3. Negative 3 minus 6 is negative. Negative 3 times the negative makes it a positive. 3 minus 2 is positive. A negative and a positive is a negative. Between here we can check 0. 0 minus 6 is negative, and 0 here is also negative. A negative and a negative is a positive. And last one, anything above 6. 7 minus 6 is positive. Negative 7 minus 2 is negative. A positive and a negative is a negative. We wanted greater than or equal to. Greater than is the positive, so this is in between. We go negative 2 to 6. We're not including the negative 2, so it has a parenthesis, but we are including the 6, so it has a square bracket. That's all there is.